Hi guys, welcome back to Two Mamas No Manual. I'm Leah.
And I'm Dani.
And today we have a very special guest, Master Certified Coach Laural. She is local. She does integrative therapy, correct?
Coaching therapy. Yeah.
So we're going to dive in because I don't know if you've tuned into our last couple episodes, but we've really been trying to slow down and get in tune with our inner selves, and it's been chaotic on Dani and I's end. So
we need coaching.
Hopefully
we
this
needed
coach
this.
can get us back on track.
Yes. You know, you're two mamas without a manual. We need a coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have the manual.
Yeah.
But you got insight we don't have.
Help
Every
us.
guest that we've had on the pod, we always ask about life balance, and especially you have a son, so how are you balancing life, therapy, healing, and being a mother?
Yeah.
And no one knows.
No one has the answer.
No one has the answer. So
I'll
if
try
we
my
can
best.
get bits and pieces from each guest and put our insights out there, I think we're paving the way.
We're collecting something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. You told me a little bit, about being in corporate and not digging it and changing, making the dive to what you do now.
Yeah.
So
I'll give you like the 30,000 foot view, I guess.
Perfect.
So it's funny. I went to college out of high school to be a therapist. So that's like the first stop on the timeline. And the funniest part that I like to say, my mom and my dad hate it, but I had straight A's and I quit with 1 week left in the semester.
Love that.
Likely a trauma response. So I was working like 3 different jobs. My mom was a single mom at the time. I was probably distracted. There was lots going on. So, that originally that was the path. And I always think that these paths shift and they change and there's always a reason for it. So that was like the stop, and then they're like, well, now you have to go to big girl work. Like, you have to get a job.
You have to support yourself. You still got to support
yourself.
Guess what?
Back then you were off your parents' insurance at 18 if you weren't, So anyways, I went and got a full-time job, and I worked my way up the corporate ladder. I was at a local organization for 10 years. Did leadership, kind of worked my way up. Really always knew that the thing I liked the most was working with people. So, I was in different industries. Got my master's degree in business while I was there. So I went the business route, felt the safest, quote unquote,
Did they pay for you to do that?
They paid for a portion.
Yeah.
It was enticing to go while I was working because there was definitely reimbursement.
Cool.
But by the time I got to my master's level, I did it in 1 year because I was so tired of working full time and going to school full time that people look at me like I'm crazy. And I actually was. Like, looking back now.
You're like, how did I do that?
At what I do now and teach people about stress and all of these burnout and all these things, I was wildly burnt out. I was totally living out of body. There was no balance whatsoever, but I did it and got my MBA, and then I worked for a couple other organizations, training and development and local nonprofit. Probably one of the most toxic work environments actually I've ever been in.
Nonprofit.
A nonprofit.
I've been hearing more of that. People that speak on nonprofits, it is so stressful because there's no communication, or there's one person trying to dictate what actually is going on, and it's just not a cohesive thing at all.
Yeah. But I had a wonderful team, and that was the continual driving force is to I love this team. They were so good. And then I got pregnant and I had my son, and I worked my way. I was coaching this whole time. So actually, if I rewind, I was married at 24, divorced at 28. So I feel like I married the qualities likely of my mom. And there's a lot of codependency in my system and caretaking and all of these things. And so it just was not working. Yeah, but
once you open up your eyes to I am dating my parental issues, incarnate, it's hard to look at them, and it's
in
hard.
Any other light.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
My husband and I have actually had multiple conversations on that where we have to come back to surface, don't parent me.
Yeah.
Don't parent me. That's a real thing in relationships. There are healthy doses of that, I believe. Just to get back on track, but there are some people that were raised in, scenarios like yours, and I have a scenario of my own that I definitely am and I'm nope, you're my husband, not my child.
Yeah.
Dude, yes. I was very much the therapy kid. Yeah. So I was you know, my mom's therapist growing up. So I always had to solve her problems, but then also like not naturally affectionate family. So then I would be like chasing affection. So then what does that cause me to want? Oh, fixer-uppers that don't show affection, and then I have to work for it. Yeah, fun stuff. Hey, 4-year turnaround, that's not bad.
Not bad.
It's not bad.
We didn't lose too much time. No,
I've wasted longer, so I'm a little envious of that turnaround, if
was
anything.
it like a mutual thing though, or was it toxic? Like,
mostly mutual, but like I had to kind of drag the process along because again, I and to be fair to him, like I mothered the whole thing, so he didn't have any skills or tools really. And it was interesting. It's one of those things where like once we were separated, he like flew the coop, like you know, kept a job, and there's lots of stories in which I could share, which I won't, but he got a job, kept a job, like he stopped smoking weed all day every day, like there were all these things that I was like, oh.
Were you the same age? He was also 24?
He was 4 years older.
Okay.
So no, actually. But my job felt like it was to have him grow up, you know. It was like kind of that Peter Pan syndrome of like he just didn't want to grow up kind of thing. So I started therapy during that journey, which was the first time I had realized I had any kind of trauma whatsoever. So that was like opening the door, and I was with the same therapist for 5 years.
That's when you were
awesome,
like
though.
24 to 28, you
Yeah,
said?
it was probably like 25, 26 when I started therapy, because I started to realize like, and I was not, let's be also clear, I was not perfect in that relationship. Like I certainly had my own deficits, and you know, I caused some
that's young
issues,
still.
but it's
24
very
to
young.
be married is very young.
Very young.
I mean, men don't get their frontal lobe until probably well into their 30s, if they even get it then. And we're just trucking along trying to find love and light and
do all the right things, right?
All
like
the right
check
things.
all the right boxes.
That's not, again though, the turnaround, like for you to like kind of like wake up and realize like, okay, I'm going to therapy and I have all this like shadow work to like address.
I know.
That's very impressive. And like, you know,
and having the same therapist, like clicking, that was the first therapist you saw and you clicked with.
Yeah, she actually started as our joint marital therapist, and very quickly
she's like, I'll just see you on the side.
We're done with
also I know a divorce lawyer.
Yeah, she was like, okay, it just wasn't working or happening, and we went to mediation and we did the thing. But yeah, I started seeing her individually, and I loved her so much, but there was a lot of talk, and validation though, do you realize how this is connected to your childhood? Do you realize like what's happening here?
That's a good therapist.
Yeah, because subconsciously you know, but you're like, you kind of talk it away.
Oh, I don't think I knew anything. No, at that age, and like you said, like the turnaround time, I was completely unaware.
Okay.
And the doors like just kept flooding open, because there was so much trauma in my childhood that I didn't even quite remember, and things just kept opening, right? And
have you heard of Akashic Records?
Yeah.
Have you done anything like that?
I've done little bits.
Okay.
I do work with a shaman.
Okay.
I know the concept, and I have a pretty strong belief system. We picked the people that we were meant to. That has been very healing in my journey with my own mother. If we're gonna take a side quest down that journey at some point.
We're always down. We're always down for that.
But I had to reconcile my relationship with my mom all of these years, and it's quite honestly fuels all of the work I do, because I don't think people understand childhood trauma enough.
I think that having your own trauma makes the best therapist.
Yeah.
I am like the therapy friend. Like my friends and family will call me to vent, and I'm always like the rationale for everyone, but it's because I went through a shit ton of childhood trauma between, you know, the toxic relationship that my parents had, and then, you know, just seeing them try to live life giving the best life to their kids, but also figuring it out. Like you hear now sayings that it's like, well, your mom's living for the first time too, which is right, because all those years they're in survival mode, trying to make sure that their kids are taken care of, or they're doing the right thing, checking off all the boxes, but really some of that is turmoil, and it's not the best decision to stay in marriages, or you know, and back then that was like frowned upon. You couldn't get a divorce. Like you marry someone, you stay with them. So it's a lot to unpack and uncover, especially when you suppress it. The reason that I brought up the Akashic Records is because I had saw a shaman and we did a soul retrieval.
Yeah.
And going into it, I was like very skeptical. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna, like, I believe in therapy, I believe in crystal healing and all that stuff, but like, what are they gonna do for me that I haven't got out of therapy, or like, you know, all this stuff. And the guy that I went to started like Indian chanting and, you know, waving stuff around, and I'm just like, oh, I did the wrong thing, this is not for me. And then immediately got hit with like all this stuff, and he's like talking to me about different things, and I was in a toxic relationship at the time, and he's like, you know, I had a daughter, she was young when I went to this, and he's like, just picture, you know, just talk to your younger self. He's like, and tell her and everything that you right now would want to know back then. And I'm like in a glass room with mirrors all around me, it's pitch black, and I'm looking in this mirror, and it's me as a child, but it's my daughter's face on in the mirror, and I just start bawling my eyes out, and I just released all these things. And, you know, he brought up cutting the cord with, you know, her father and the toxic relationships that I surround myself by, because I'm never digging that deep to work on my own trauma. And I was just like, whew. Like, after that, I cut so many cords, and I, like, guarded myself so much, but I was also able to, like, open up. And when I met my husband now, I was an open book. I was like, I got tons of trauma, and it stems from this time to this time. I sought out men that needed help, and but it took me that experience to realize I'm gonna heal forever. Like, it's never ending. Like, there's different things that I'm gonna have to work on, you know. I'm 31, and I had 15, 20 years of childhood trauma, so
totally.
How beautiful is it that shamans are making their way into mainstream society? That three women come together in a room and we can all talk about shamans and like how much they've affected us, you know. It's so cool.
So cool,
the amount of like facilitation to healing and really deep work that is becoming normalized in the mainstream.
I love that for our kids.
Yeah.
Because we struggled so
much.
Where
was the shamans back in the 70s and the 60s?
Like, frowned upon to see a therapist, or like, you know, if you needed help in that way, it was like, you know, you're crazy or whatever. And now it's like we talk about it at the dinner table. Like, it's like, therapy's great, and if you need to express yourself, we do big belly breaths, and like none of that stuff was talked about as a child for me. So I'm so glad that the doors are open for our kids, because they're gonna make the true difference.
Totally.
Yeah,
like circling back to the 30,000 foot view, is that therapist that I had was this is one of my markers that I talk about in my coaching practices, the feelings wheel, you know, and she made me carry it around for 2 years on a journal, and every day I had to like I had to decide what I was feeling, because I went in there with like, I don't feel like I know how to feel. Like, I think I'm happy, I don't feel it. I don't know. There was so much disconnection between the word and what my body was doing. And I found a great psychologist in Boston who I couldn't work with individually because of like the laws at the time. She couldn't work in one-on-one out of state. But she wrote a wonderful book called Running on Empty, and her name's Janice Webb, Dr. Janice Webb, and she coined this term, childhood emotional neglect. So not abuse, but neglect. And it's like, we were never taught how to feel our feelings. Like, it's as if they didn't exist, right? And that was a part of my journey, right? It's like, I just felt like I was responsible so much more for my mom's journey. Love both my parents, and my dad is like the most kind of emotionally unavailable man, right? So he'll probably never see this podcast, but the point being is like,
if you do, we still love you, Dad.
Still love you, Dad. But like, my mom was emotionally pretty volatile, and then I had another example of just like, we keep everything inside, right? And those were the two examples I had, and I was just trying to find my way, you know.
Are you an only child?
Yeah, well, no, but for 9 years I was. I have a half brother from my dad's side, so under my mother I am an only child, which is
its own thing.
So all of that, and I have a wonderful husband now, who we're not perfect, and we're still learning, and I'm still trying to unmother, you know, partners and all of these things, and he'd say that too, but he's been so supportive of like, just take the leap, get into your business. Like, I've heard it ad nauseum, and finally, like, we've been able to make it work. And so, I got certified as a coach. The whole moral of that story is, after my bout of therapy for all those years, my therapist actually fired me, because she was like, I think we're like done. I don't like, we keep talking about the same thing over and over. And that's kind of traditional talk therapy, which as we go along, we'll probably differentiate what I do in my practice, but it was a very loving departure. But I was still not divorced. We were sleeping in separate rooms. We did this for 2 years. This is how codependent I was, like so toxic, right? And so finally I hired a coach, and within 3 months I had filed for divorce. So it was like this aha moment, circling all the way back to, well, maybe this is what I was meant to do, right? And so I proceeded with coaching school, went that route 11 years ago now.
Yeah.
Did it part-time for a while, and then I joined an integrative wellness center, and I kind of built my practice, in-person practice up, and then I've had Tree Embodied Wellness for 2.5 years now.
That's awesome.
So thanks. I've added different tools and modalities, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but that's like the grand scheme of how I got here.
Okay, so you mentioned the differences between like therapy, talk therapy, or like coaching. Do you want, for everyone who's watching, like explain what exactly is what you do by definition?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I have a specific definition.
All right, Webster. Let's hear that dictionary definition.
Coaching is meant, so I'm not a therapist, which means I cannot diagnose, I cannot treat, I cannot prescribe medication, right? Obviously there's boundaries to my work. Like if anybody is actively threatening to harm themselves, like there are parameters, but I go to wonderful schools and take a lot of credit for education, in which helps me stay within my boundaries. But as a coach, I call myself an integrative coach. I haven't found any other terminology that really lands at this point, but more about embodiment. So like literally I work with my own coach right now, and it's me learning to go like, am I in my body right now, or am I out of my body right now? So like, we worry about dissociation, and that's like a term that's like pathologized, right? But it's really just the idea of, are we in or out of our body, in my opinion, right? And it's a wonderful tool when we're not wanting to be in our body, or things feel too scary or too big. And that's just an extreme example. But from a coaching standpoint, I've added different tools. So I've added tools like trauma touch therapy, which is all about the utilization of touch in the practice. So a traditional therapist can't technically do that, or their license may dictate that they can or can't. I use a tool like CranioSacral Therapy, which is...
I love CranioSacral.
It's literally my favorite
People
tool.
don't know about it, and they should. Shout out Rebecca Freehill. If you're in Florida, look her up.
Look her up.
But if you're here in Pennsylvania, Laural,
Look her up.
I got all the recs, but I highly recommend it.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Do you know what that is?
No.
Oh.
So it's like, for me, I call it a massage for the nervous system, massage for the soul, however you want to talk about it. But it was designed by the doctors of osteopathy. So it comes down the lineage of DOs, and they believe that the body can heal itself. So it's facilitated touch in a way in which I can work with your nervous system, and your nervous system can communicate with me. And we're working with the craniosacral, the cerebral spinal fluid that goes from the brain down to your sacrum. And it's called the water of life. And so it's said that all your unconscious, unconscious memories live in this water. So there's different ways to do it. Like I say, you can totally just come in and have a receiving session where it's rejuvenation, you're de-stressing. It can be as simple as that. But how I use it in my trauma work is often there's a somatic emotional component to it, in which stored emotions, stored things in your fascia are coming forward, and we're unwinding the body, right, from some of those patterns, and we're reprocessing. So in my work, I use a bucket of tools, which is I've built out to be breath work, movement, touch, creativity and play, nature, and community.
I love that.
Me too.
And so that's like, anybody's healing can happen with any of those tools because everyone's different. But I have this really strong belief that touch, especially with childhood developmental trauma, is one of the most profound ways to heal the body, the nervous system. And so those are just some examples. I use parts work in internal family systems, which is like parts work indicating that we have these multiplicity of parts within us, not just black and white.
Yep.
And that becomes really stabilizing for people.
Even in my adult, like, my husband says that to me all the time. He's like, it's not just black and white. And I am, like, I'm a solutionist, so I'm very, like, we can solve anything.
I love that.
We just
Solutionist.
I am.
Relate.
But his love language is different. He is not a solutionist. He is a, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it again. Let's work through it this way. And I'm just like, well, we don't gotta do all that, because we can just do this and it'll solve all our problems, which is not the case 99% of the time. So we go back and forth on that a lot, and it's been eye-opening to see, like, oh, these traumas that I've had from here, like, I've just always solved them. I've always just worked my way through them. Solving them isn't exactly dealing with them,
right? It's very much
of the
like
time.
It's not the destination, it's the journey. And like so much of healing is like you uncover things and you learn things about yourself through the process of healing. So it's like, if you're like, okay, I know that this is the solution, like, eat healthy, be kind, like, do this, do that. But it's like, you have to learn, like, oh, these are the systems that work for me. These are the systems that don't. And then those systems and that knowledge of self, you can implement in all parts of your life, that then brings a well-rounded healing rather than just like a very destination goal orientated, like, just almost forced.
Well, especially because everyone is different too. Like, there's, I'm reading a book right now called Be Good to Your Body. I can't think of who the author is, but it's religious based, like, going back to God on, he created us as humans and he created us to live in this certain way. So, like, we hunt for our food, we eat fish, we eat greens, and people have got away from that. And in today's society, it's like, oh, it's a quick fix. Let's go get on Ozempic to lose weight, or let's start this weight loss pill, or, intermittent fasting, and all these new fads that come up. But, like, is that really going to get you back to what you are made to do in life, or is that just a quick fix to have you shed a few pounds or feel good about yourself for a second? When you feel good about yourself, you're giving yourself what it needs in that moment. So like you said earlier to me today, that, like, it's winter, you're packing on the weight, and whether your body likes it or not, but right now that is what your body is supposed to do. You're supposed to hibernate and feed yourself, so that way you're ready for the spring and you're ready to forage again. And it, I not to get all religious, but I went away from God for a while. I in my addiction and everything, I was like, God doesn't love me, because why am I neglecting my own child, or why am I choosing this path when, I'm a child of God. I was baptized, and it's because I didn't believe in myself. And when I went back to church, I felt like I was literally being talked to directly, because the service was all about redemption and just finding your way again. And, I don't pray every night, and I don't, speak God onto people, but I do say, like, if you believe in yourself and you believe in the higher power, then the answers are right there. You have to look for them.
Sure.
And a lot of people get weary about that and don't want to talk about it, and it's like, well, I've been believing in myself for a while now, and I'm on the up. Like, even my bad stuff, like, it's like, it is what it is, and you just keep going. And people that get stuck in these ruts of life, and that's what brings the trauma that they've had in the past forthcoming in a bad way, because they're not dealing with it, they're not emotionally healed, and then they just hold on to this, like, woe is me type personality.
Well, it runs their life.
Yep,
instead
100%.
Instead of being something that, like, you're like, okay, this is kind of part of my design because of this trauma, it's like, but I'm gonna try to work my life around it. They just kind of autopilot, let it just run the show.
And 99% their life is chaotic.
And it is a disempowerment.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm this way because of this, and I'm this way because of that. And it's like, no, there's things within you because of this and because of that. Yeah. But that's not you. And that doesn't have to be. And it is very, like, disempowered and losing their faith in themselves or a higher power or whatever. Like, we have to call upon things to empower us. And it's like, people get a little caught up on the semantics of, like, oh, a god, or oh, yourself. But it's like, just call upon anything that's going to make you realize that you are capable of really becoming an empowered and healthy version of yourself.
Yeah. Very much.
I read a quote the other day that said, God was never meant to be worshipped. He was meant to be embodied.
Right.
And
that's literally what this book is about.
That landed so much. Like, I don't have necessarily a religious faith that I follow, but I think all of them are great. You know what I mean? And they all, it's the embodiment piece, right? Yep. And that's where I think what you're saying, and it's a slippery slope because trauma, I want to be validating of trauma, but it's also like the narrative out there around everything being trauma. And in school, we're taught like if one thing is trauma, if how does it go? If everything is trauma, nothing is trauma. So it's like we have to be somewhat, discerning around how we're using the word. But I really try hard in my practice I say it's like a space for validation. It's like my tagline is it's an oasis safe enough to heal, because we only need safety like this much to do the work. But my clients have to do the work, but I just need to be able to facilitate the safety. But yeah, like it's just this validation too that people didn't like. It's like unlearning a lot and then relearning like, why do I operate this way, right? And it's like, well, there's these tendencies or these stressors or these patterns stuck in our nervous system, right?
I do think, and maybe, this is just all opinion based, but I think it is genetic a little bit, especially with anxiety factors. Like my mom is a very anxious woman, and I know that as I've gotten older, like I was always a very carefree spirit, like dealt with the consequences later type of girl. And as I get older, I feel myself picking up on anxiety more in situations like I won't go to the grocery store on a day that I know it's going to be crazy busy because I don't want to run into somebody or talk to somebody. And with winter, it's heavy too because I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I hate everyone right now. But I think about, how my parents were and different things that I've saw. And maybe it's just learned behaviors, like you said.
Oh, no. I just finished Atomic Habits, which is a very good book. Yeah, and he said that, scientists have just stopped even trying to find out what behaviors are linked to genetics because just all of them kept, every single one just was. It all is linked to genetics and DNA.
Yeah. Epigenetics would say that, and also trauma is, and it's whether or not the gene expresses, right? So, but also it's like, trauma can be passed down. It's like 7 generations, and now I think they're saying 12.
Jesus.
But the empowering part, is also like if you're the cycle breaker, if you're the person who's going to stop the cycle and heal, right? And I do think it gets diluted. Like you see those Instagram posts of the water being really dirty, and then it's getting cleaner as the generations, and I love that representation. But it also can heal 7 to 12 generations ahead. So if you're going to do the work, it's really empowering that. Yes, this is for our kids, this is for our grandkids, and so on and so forth. But it does feel heavy. And like, as you said earlier, it's never ending. It's continuously unfolding. And if you look into internal family systems about parts work, which is also inherently very shamanic, just as a side, it's very spiritual. But parts can get passed down. The burdens of those anxious parts can get passed down from generations.
I always worried about that in my own household because, not that this is a big thing now, but having a child out of wedlock and, other families that don't, and she has to go to school with, now I have a different last name than her. We were Schaefer's. She took my maiden last name, but then I got married, and it doesn't bother her, but sometimes she's like, I want to be a Whiteside too. And I'm like, you can change your name. You can do whatever you want, But it's just confusing sometimes. And I think that as me trying to heal myself so that way I can help her have all the tools, and I'm learning them for the first time because not that I didn't have it, but my family, like my parents' generation didn't have it, so I have nothing to go off of. So I'm like, I have to remind myself, like, every day, be gracious. This is the first time that you're a mother to an 8-year-old. This is the first time that you're dealing with these things. You're going to deal with being a mother all over again to a 9-year-old. And, like, that's kind of, like, how I've been playing it, is, like, even though I've been a mom for 8 years, I have no idea what it's like to be a mom to an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old. This is the first time that I'm doing it.
Even if you had 1 million kids, each one's different.
Exactly.
No one knows.
Seriously. I was talking to someone about that the other day, that when you have a kid, because, most people our age now have 2 kids or on their third, or whatever their journey takes them, but they're doing it all over again. So like, they were a mom for the last 5 years, but now they're a mom to a newborn baby all over again, and they haven't had the practice for 5 years. So you're doing it all over again, and you're unlearning and relearning. And I think that goes well into, when you're on your deathbed. You're unlearning and relearning stuff forever. But you have to have an open mind to it. If you don't have the open mind, you're going to stay stuck in those negative, anxiety-ridden states for a while.
It's good to try to, like, treat it as a play. Like I playfully call myself out when I'm internally spiraling. Like, I've been going through some custody things, and like I kind of been cycling through like anger to like solution based to then like trying to be acceptance, but then because like mother instincts kick in right around there, then it gets right back to like anger. Yeah. And I kind of just like I play with it. I'm like, okay, you're being an angry bitch right now. Tone
it down a little bit.
Try to break this cycle for like an hour. And it's like, it's not easy to heal, and trying to like either coach yourself, or I'm sure, you know, when you're coaching others, you can see how it's not easy for them. But it's like, you gotta do it, and you gotta make it as...
It's hard work.
You have to like just try to make it as bearable as possible. Yep. So it's like, I know people that will, their inner voice, like the one that's always trying to get the devil on their shoulder, they'll kind of like give it a silly name. And they're like, no, or like, not today, Satan, you know? Yeah. It's like you got to try to make it bearable, because there's no avoiding that if you are consciously trying to get better, if you're consciously trying to heal.
You think that that's the biggest thing that you see for someone who is newly coming to you, is like avoidance and like not accepting of that they have to dig deep to find the stuff to heal, to deal with the stuff that they're going through right now?
I think I get lucky, because most people who come see me have sat in talk therapy for a lot of years. My consistent practice and inquiries and discovery sessions are, I have this, and this in my body. Like, there's, and social media, love or hate it, has been really good at educating people, right? Oh, yeah. Like, we have to be careful of how much we're integrating the education piece, or how much we're putting all of our marbles in that.
Misinformation and unreliable.
But they're so aware. They come to me very aware of like why they need this work, because they've talked ad nauseum about what's going on. They have, and that was my pure story. Like, I talked, and yet my body didn't feel any better. I was still in chronic burnout. You know, I went to a functional doc, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I think so." And she's like, "No, all your blood work says you are not okay." Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so it's a wake-up call that like, okay, we have to connect these two things. And so most people come to me with all the awareness. They're like, I have this trauma. This is what happened. And they know it all, but they're like, I don't know how to heal from it. I don't know how to, what do I do with it? And how do I get my body to catch up? Which in my practice is 80% of it's in the body, 20%'s in the brain. So, you know, when we're spending all our time, love therapy, but CBT, we can't spend all of our time doing CBT, although it's a great tool, because it's only 20% of the equation. And so I don't particularly encounter that. Most people have the awareness. Now they're just ready. Like, help me metabolize this story, right? Help me process whatever it is I need to process, so it can just like move its way out. And then, that's where healing, I think, comes from.
There's more like the action side of it rather than the awareness side of it. Yeah. Like, they already know, they just don't know what to do with it now.
Yeah, and as soon as I teach them about, like, 80% is the body, and the polyvagal theory with the nervous system, and our fight, flight, freeze, fawn, like, as soon as I put words to it, because they're like, this is how I'm feeling, like, they're like, that's it. Yep. Like, what do I do now? And then, so typically the work is actually pretty fast.
Yep.
Because they've done so.
They just need to be presented with it,
Yeah. Now, if I worked with somebody who had never gone to anything, yes, I think that would be correct. Yeah. It would take a little bit more, but that's just not where I'm at.
You've never had one of those cases? Like a hard nut that just found their way to you?
No, I mean, I did. You know, what's funny is that I feel like there's like the saying, at least I like to embrace it, is like, you only have to be one step ahead of your client.
Okay.
And I mean, maybe I'm a couple of steps ahead of some clients, but I'm doing my own work, and I will not integrate a tool into my practice that I have not walked myself. Yeah. You know, that feels really important to me. And that's why now that I look back on it, I didn't just go to school to become a therapist and walk that path. I literally needed to do all of this to be
for yourself
who I am right now. Yeah. But, I early in my coaching journey for sure, but you know, when I went to coaching school, again, it was change your thoughts so you could change how you feel, so you can change how you act. Like, that was the only way.
When I like started to come to fruition about getting my shit together, I started seeing a therapist through Reading Behavioral Hospital. Dr. Amy Gerard was her name. she actually left the practice to go teach doctors like how to deal with like everything that you're talking about. She had me read The Power of Now, which was a life changer for me, because I was living so much in the past, not realizing it was from childhood trauma, and seeing my family live, you know, how they lived. I thought that that was normal because I never saw anything else. So then I sought that out in relationships, and I finally got to the point where I'm like, I am the problem now, because I'm just continuing on this toxic relationship and I'm feeding off of it. Like, I love the toxicity of it, like doing ill things to get the attention. Like, so when I went to her and talked to her, I was honest. I was like, I cheat, I do drugs, I do all these things. Like, I am just like trying to get attention in all these horrific ways, and I'm tired. Like, I don't want to be this person anymore. Like, people don't like me because I am a bitch. Like, I put out this negative, like, because I hate who I have become because of all the stuff that I don't even realize I've suppressed. And she had me read that book, and she said, when you're in a situation, you need to stop thinking about how this person is going to feel or how this person is going to feel. She's like, you need to step out like you're a third party and you're watching you and this person go through this altercation together, and you need to look at it like that. And I started doing that in my everyday life, just like taking a step back and seeing how like therapy me would deal with the situation, and it changed everything for me. I was like, wait, I'm reacting every single time, and it's always negative because I'm not giving myself any time. Like, I went through a period of time with my husband where we would text each other because we were fighting so bad and we couldn't talk to each other because it was always like, well, I'm right, well, we're trying to get our point across. So we would just separate and like go in a different room, and we would just text our feelings out, everything we were feeling, and that is what got us through for like a period of time, because we didn't know how to communicate in person everything we were feeling. And it was a lot of baggage on both ends, like really had nothing to do with us, but sometimes it takes that, like just taking a step back and looking at it from a different perspective to be like, oh wait, I am a part of this problem.
That's pretty solid, actually, because like, think about it, like when you have biological like reactions when you're in a conflict with someone, like face to face, like you get triggered in fight or flight because you literally feel like you're in some sort of harm. And so to kind of like then to separate and just be like, just let's text about this, and like feeling you're in your safe bubble, you're just with your phone. That's kind of brilliant.
Well, we could also just like actually see what the other person's trying to say, because like in it too, you know, we're so worked up, and I'm bringing up things from the past. He can't remember the things that I'm bringing up, and
you're
then he's
thinking
bringing
of
up
responses while he's still talking.
So then it's just like both of us are making it worse because we're not on the same page at all. We're bringing up different stuff. So like taking a step back and being able to read, because when I'm reading his text, I'm not thinking like, you motherfucker, you shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel bad that I made him feel this way. Like I can't believe he's feeling all these things in it, and I was triggering him by these reactions. So like that was a huge milestone in our relationship, because now when we talk to each other, like we are able to just be like, let's just take a beat. Let's just take a beat and let's just, you know, walk it off, and we'll be able to talk about this later, and we can hear both sides of it. But that took us a bit to get there.
It's a brilliant tactic, because my husband and I do the same. And it's a little bit about, well, it's a lot about what your nervous system is doing. So like being able to just that's where the brain really is a powerful tool, because being able to think about it, being able to just write it out, that's a very cognitive process, but it really regulates the nervous system.
100%.
And then the other person can read it maybe from a disarmed space. I had somatic therapy last night. My coach is in Australia, and she's brilliant, and she, you know, one of the revelations was like, you know, like you're allowed to just say, I need a break. Like this conversation's getting too heated. I need to pause and go away. And then we'll resume. And I'm almost 41. And she's like, when you were a little kid, you didn't get to leave. Kids don't get to leave. They don't get the permission to say this is too much.
God knows I tried. The amount of times I'm like, can I just go to my room?
See, the toxic part
my room
in me would hate when my husband would try to do that. I'd be like, you're just walking away, you're just not dealing with it. And it took me a while. Like, I'm a part of the problem. Like, don't trigger him more by making him feel unsafe for you know, having to take a beat.
Yep.
Like, it's okay that he needs to go collect his thoughts so that way we can sit down like normal human beings and talk to each other instead of, you know, coming at each other like that. But for a while, my defense mechanism was like to attack him more because he was leading the conversation.
I don't know this to be true about you, but an abandonment thing, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
That comes up. But again, it's like teaching. That's what I love so much about my work is like it's teaching people to find the safety inside of them. So like we can be in all of this. Yep. It's never about like perfect relationships or, you know, any of that. It's or perfect workplaces. Although I've been
regulation.
Yeah. And it's a huge word that's out there, but it's like flexibility in our nervous system. Like everybody's like, we need to be regulated. Well, we do, but we also need to be flexible. Like dysregulation's perfectly fine.
I love that.
But we got to be flexible and we have to have a toolbox, but we have to have safety enough inside of ourselves to know, like, even in dysregulation, we are safe. It's okay. I mean, unless it's not, right? Like, let's be clear.
Yeah. That's how I had to get through. I had a horrible bout of anxiety. I didn't leave my house for a year because I had a very, like, traumatic experience where a medical event happened to my partner and I had to handle it. And so, and that was while I was trying to sleep. And so I felt like I couldn't go to sleep. So then my sleep was getting, and all of a sudden I have very obsessive compulsive, like, thinking. I try not to say like disorder, but like just more of thinking of like more to give it an action. And I just started struggling so bad with anxiety. And it's because I would feel dysregulation, but I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
So I went to the hospital so many times, and it's because I watched my partner have a medical event. I then was like, oh, I'm having a medical event right now. That 3 days later, I'm having a medical event. So scared of it. And they, you know, go to the doctor, and they'd be like, wait, I think you're not having a heart attack. I think you might have anxiety. And I was like, do I look like someone with anxiety? Like, there is inflammation, because there was. They did find some inflammation in my lungs or whatever. But I had to figure it out by kind of, like, every day I'd be like, tell myself, I am not dying. I am not going to get in a car and die. I am fine. My body is just heightened from stress. And then I start overthinking it, which then sends all those stress chemicals even more. And so the obsessive thinking was like paving all these pathways of like, I'm anxious, I'm dying, I can't leave the house. And I had to repave, like, I am just feeling stress. I'm feeling these chemicals. I will be okay. And I literally, like, went from not leaving the house to, like, a year and a half later, moving cross country, starting a podcast, like, completely changing my life when I literally couldn't get out of bed. And it's, like, all from that acknowledgement that, like, dysregulation can happen, but it's not a death sentence.
No. And it's all in your body.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that you were able to use thoughts to help with the regulation piece, but the physical symptoms you were experiencing were all in your body.
Oh, yeah. They found inflammation, guys. I got many x-rays, okay? It manifested, and I can say that.
Yeah. But even the panic, even all of those things were all physical, right?
Yeah.
The anxiousness is often physical, right?
I worked at a job that was a toxic work environment, and I didn't realize until I was far deep into it, and I also had very toxic mannerisms of my own, so I was bringing my own personal toxic environment to an already toxic environment. So I would get physically ill. Like, I would be at work, like, my stomach hurting, like, I'm sweating so bad, and I just thought, like, oh, I ate something bad, or but then it happened, like, and towards the end, before I got fired from this place, it was happening so often, and I was like, you know, also not doing great things to my body, drinking a lot, so I'm like, oh, this is just like a bad hangover or whatever. But now, looking back into that, I was like, no, like, my body was just in high levels of fight or flight, that I was just freaking out every day going to work because I didn't know when the other shoe was going to drop. Like, if I was going to get yelled at or in trouble, or if someone else's something was going to get me in trouble. And, like, that really put my body through this horrible stress that I was, like, diarrhea every day just from stress. And I have IBS, so as it is. So, like, stress is the biggest trigger to me. Like, they tell you, don't eat this or don't eat that. And I'm like, we're just like, don't be stressed. Because that's when I notice my flare-ups the most. My inflammation is because of freaking stress.
crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Sure.
It's all connected. So you mentioned how the body knows. I'm sure you love that book, What Body Keeps Score.
The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah. That must have been like major for you.
I read that years ago. When that first functional doc was like, I don't think you're okay, based on blood work. I was just my mom had tons of medical trauma and events since I was 19. And so I didn't even know that could like be stored in my body, right? Mm-hmm. Like I had just no idea. And so when I became a mom, all of that came flooding out. Right? I was just afraid that I was going to die all the time because my mom actually almost died. Her intestines ruptured, and she was, all of these things. And then she died twice on the operating table. And then the course of the next 10 years was just me advocating for the things she needed, fighting medical systems. If it weren't for her being a veteran, she would have died because insurance said, no, you're not getting this treatment. All of these things. So she's well and good right now. But the toll that it took on my body, for this doctor to go like, your cortisol's through the roof, all of these things.
I bet you had diarrhea too.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, in fun fact, my body does the opposite. It holds everything. I know I'm in like a pattern of really deep stress when I'm holding way too much. Like it just will hold.
I'm the same way.
So
not me.
Yeah,
I'm just like stretch fitting every 10 minutes.
It's like, that's the first question.
I don't know which is worse. I don't think
when you're coaching, it's like, so when you're stressed, you get stocked up or you let it all out?
Which one are you?
Put that on my intake form. But yeah, I don't remember the original question, but yeah.
You were talking about how you carried all that stress, so your body was keeping the score.
Oh yeah. So she recommended the book. I read the book. It's funny now, my husband he's just starting his therapy journey. So, but he was recommended this book and he's like, I'm sure you have it. And I was like, yeah, of course. And I brought it home for him. But yeah, it's a fantastic book that just starts to really help open people's eyes, and then they step onto these paths. And it's just again, I don't have it all figured out, and I'll never be the first to say that I do, but I will say this is like, I'm trying to take the roadmap of my 20 years of healing, going on 20 years of healing, and saying like, let's condense it a little bit, Mm-hmm. I don't promise people any timelines, right? But significant shifts can happen in like 3 to 6 months of like intentional somatic integration work I tell people all the time, we're working in the present, how you're feeling, symptoms you have, but also like we're going to have to dip into the past and process out some of that stuff so it's not living in here anymore. And then that makes a huge shift for their future, right? But yeah, I'm still holding on to stuff. I still have stuff that I need to work through.
Have you ever tried to do a cord cutting ceremony for
yourself?
yourself?
So I do. I've done that with my shaman, and so I've had to cut my mom's cords like ad nauseum, right? For a long time. That's like a side quest of like estrangements, then we're back together, and estrangements, and there's this oscillation between that. I've never been super like anybody has to do whatever they have to do, right? But for some reason, estrangement was never I couldn't ever completely cut the relationship.
It's hard when they're blood.
Yeah.
They always say, blood is thicker than water, but it's hard when you have to cut off your own family from toxicity,
Right, and also I believe in like genetic, like we're all connected, and I do believe that there's like, because your mother creates your cells, and like, I don't know, listen, I think everything's connected. Like when people feel telepathic to their twin or their mom or their sister or whatever, it's like, I think we are connected. So when it comes to like familial things, like,
it's hard. It's a hard topic, and I know I had to do it out of survival, many times, and specifically being pregnant, I can remember like they say the third trimester is like one of the most important, right? And so I didn't speak to my mom for the last bit of my pregnancy. Her relationship with my son now is very healing. Sometimes there's that inner child in me that's like, fuck, why couldn't you do it for me, right? That's where the anger still lives, and working on that in my body with my liver and all of that, anger, stored stuff. But I am always about the and I can hold space for like, this can exist and this can exist at the same time. And we've been through multiple bouts of estrangement, but I was literally also one of the people that helped save her life with all the treatments and medical things that she's needed. She's never once said sorry to me in my whole life, right? So that's a really hard.
I don't know if my mom watches my podcast. She sometimes barely. Mom, if you're watching this.
Yeah, same. And honestly, this is the first time I'm really like vocally talking about it, but it does feel like it is. The and is like she did the best she could with what she had, and sometimes it wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a third chapter to that. In some way, there's a third statement that I haven't yet figured out what
I
it
always
is,
say, and it's okay.
And it's okay. That's beautiful.
Where it's just like,
at some point, you're just like, like her fight in her has like calmed down. I think she's just gotten tired, but and I don't like to put diagnosis on people that don't have diagnosis, but if you could relate to things like borderline personality and narcissistic tendencies, but it's all trauma. Like it's all unhealed trauma. So as a 4-year-old, I legitimately knew that my parents divorced when I was 2. So I knew very early, way too early, that her emotions were not, what I mean? Like everything was too heavy, and I just stored a lot for her. And I did that my whole life.
I feel that way with my mom. Her and I are very close. And I do feel that I store a lot for her. But for me, it's like my mom, I feel like, just got dished a shitty life.
Yeah, sure. Same.
So, like, did she work on it the way that she should have in the time that she should have? Probably not. But she also has gone to therapy. She's, tried to better herself in those ways. And I think that our major breakthroughs were when I was being extremely rebellious because I, at the time, didn't realize, like, how they lived their life, me growing up. This is why I was rebelling, because it hurt me in ways that I didn't even know how to process at the time. And even still, like, there are things that I'm sure that has happened that I would never bring up because it's just like beating a dead horse. Like, it happened, it's over with. She dealt with it in her own way. I probably dealt with it in my own way, whatever. But I think that she knows deep down the mistakes that she made and that she could have changed. So I don't feel the need to bring it up like, hey, this did kind of fuck me up, like, because she knows, and she's, made comments before, like, I wish I would have done this so that you guys wouldn't, and I'm like, but you did the best that you could with what you had, and she spoiled the shit out of us, and always made sure we were, felt loved, even if there was bouts of toxicity, because every family's dysfunctional.
Totally. Yep, and that's how I feel like we're entering kind of our reconciliation era of some sort.
Love
right?
that for you. Yeah.
And to your point, there's a lot. I feel like I was steeped in it for so long and it was just too chaotic to even process. But the validation of like, no, what you experienced was really hard and really traumatic, and I never knew what I was getting, and I didn't know if the shoe was gonna fall, and I didn't know. There's just so much that like
body's in fight or flight all the time.
But I think the healing that's experienced when you watch them be grandparents too is also pretty cool. So that's where we are.
I have a very similar situation, and I gave her first grandson and only grandson right now, and it's always like I'll watch her do things and I'm like, man, where was that when I was a kid? But then I also watch things I'm like, oh, there's that. I know what she's doing right now, and then I'm like, no. A lot of her thing is she'll kind of like, fix every problem for him. Or like he's like, oh, I can't open this. And she's like, oh, it's like, no, let him. Let him do this. He is an independent, powerful child. He can open this applesauce.
Like,
I gave my mom her first grandchild too, and that definitely changed our relationship too. Like I didn't have a partner, so I was, going through pregnancy alone. She was my partner. Like, we did everything together. We got all the nursery stuff, so, like, that really bonded us. And then, after I gave birth and I fell into addiction, she is, kind of who helped open my eyes to it, because she told me, she's like, I hate that I have to say this to you right now, but if you don't get your shit together, I will file to have custody of your child. And I hated her for that. I was like, why?
Shout out Sherry.
No, but later on, looking at it, I thank her for doing that, because she didn't want, like, that's a shitty position to be in. Like, watching your daughter make these horrible decisions that you just want to help her through, and you can't, because I was stubborn and needed to do it on my own. But also knowing that that's probably going to fuck up her grandchild because she's, you know, going through these things of me not being in my right mind, me not being my real self. Sure. So being able to be that strong of a person to sit down and be like, hey, listen, I don't want to have to do this, but I will if I have to. Yeah. And, you know, she cried to me and told me, and I was like, you would really do that, you know, and probably said some shitty things that I regret, but I needed that. And all of my friends, I was just talking about this with someone the other day. Growing up, all of my friends had shitty parents, and I didn't realize. Like, I thought that they had cool parents because they would let them do whatever the hell they wanted, and we would be roaming the streets at, like, 12 o'clock at night, and their parents didn't really care, where my mom was, like, a helicopter mom is what I called it. But now that I look back, I'm like, no, she cared. My mom cared about her kids.
She didn't mind inconveniencing herself to be a helicopter.
Yeah, like she didn't want anything bad to happen to us, or like you don't know people. Like being a mother now, that is my worst nightmare. Is just like introducing her to someone who is a shit person and is gonna fuck her up in some way, and then I have to carry that with me, you know. So thinking back to that time, I'm like, no, like my mom was just trying to make sure that I never got put in a position that I would remember for the rest of my life in a horrific way. And all these other parents just were like, whatever, you know, we're just doing the best we can, do whatever you want. And my mom was doing the best she could while also being a helicopter mom, and I was a bad kid. I did whatever I wanted.
That helicopter was working.
Yeah, it was. It was. I was grounded 99% of the time because I had to be.
And I was on the opposite side. Like, I had hardly any rules, and I was also still a bad, rebellious kid in my late teens and, you know, early 20s. So I guess you do your best you can, right?
You grow through what you go through.
Yeah, I love that. Yep. Yes. And I also know, like, kudos to you for being a girl mom. I swear I have a boy because I was, like, terrified. I actually didn't think I was worthy of being a mom, or I was scared to be a mom because of everything I had been through. And then I had a miscarriage right before we got pregnant with our son, and to this day I swear that was a girl. And I mean, there's no evidence, they can't say, but having a boy and being I just didn't come in with any of these preconceived notions.
I did not want to be a girl mom.
I
wanted a boy in the worst way. I was like a little upset when I found out, and I was like, this is God punishing me because I'm a fucking hellion of a woman.
Now you got to get to know a woman.
But now looking at her, she is like, I was so nervous because I'm thinking, I'm like a dude girl, like, so how am I gonna, like, what if she's a girly girl and like likes all this stuff? And which she is, she definitely has that side. My sister's very girly, my mom's very girly, so she gets that from them, but she is me. So like, she still wears the Vans and is a little skater tomboy girl, and I'm like, I don't know why I couldn't get that through my head at that, like, when I first had her. I was just like, oh, I'm so scared. Like, I actually resented being a mom in the very beginning because I was like, I had her with Satan, and he's so terrible, and like, this is gonna be horrible. Like, raising a child that's him and I combined into a person just seems like a nightmare, and that's all. I couldn't get past that. But now she's like the kindest, sweetest human being in the world. Like,
she's there's a little cupcake.
She is. She is. There's not one place that we go that people don't like pull me aside, even strangers, and be like, she is so sweet and she is so funny. And I'm just like, it takes a village. Like, she grew up around my parents, my sister, me. Like, it really is so many different embodiments that creates her. But in the time of it, I was just like, oh my God. Curse me.
We wanted a girl because my partner had 2 boys already, and so he was like, I'm ready for a girl, and I was like, I'll try. And then we found out he was a boy, and it was funny because I had a boy name picked out, but we could not settle on a girl name. And I was like, listen, if we have a boy, we can name him River. And I'm like, but I don't know what we're doing with the girl. Ended up being a boy, and now I'm just like, he's what I needed. He's my little dude, you know?
Right, yep.
I like grew up with 2 brothers, and like, I always had more guy friends. I think as a response from things with my motherhood, I think I had a distrust in women for a very long time. But, you know, I had my little dude, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm good with this. And I have my stepsons, and I'm like, heck yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
We're still open to it, but I'm happy with having a boy.
Yeah, I said the only way we would ever have another, that ship has just sailed, but is if I could now guarantee it's a girl, because I've had a blueprint of parenthood.
Yes.
That's my own. Like, I just did not think I could have my first child being a girl, because I would have been terrified of the replication, and likely could have happened. Like, I have no idea. I mean, I'm a different person, obviously, but it would have had it would have been way more trauma filled, I think.
Well, it's hard having a girl because women are systematically oppressed. So that's just an inevitable reality of our misogynistic world. So it's like when you have a girl, it's like, okay, you're about to go through the same shit that I did.
Yeah.
Like,
I do think about that all the time, like just when like puberty started for me, and like when bullying started for me, and I feel like it started even younger now in the generations, like she's getting in tiffs with kids in first grade, and I'm just like, what? Like, I don't remember feeling this way in first grade. Like, I was just like, I can't wait to get home and play with my Barbies.
Yeah.
And obviously social media is like so ingrained in their lifestyle now that plays a huge role in it. But I just think about the things that I wish that I would have been told at her age. Like, I always am like, just be kind. I'm like, you don't know what anyone's dealing with at home. A lot of people don't have the life that you have. Like, you get to come home to loving parents that are like, how was your day at school? What was your favorite thing? I was like, some people don't have parents to come home to, or they have foster parents that they're coming home to that don't really care about how their day at school was. I was like, don't get me wrong. A lot of your friends and the people you surround yourself by do have this loving, nurturing relationship, but there are kids that don't, and those are the kids that maybe act out more at school, or, just trying to... I try to talk to her as adult as I can for her only being 8, because I want her to realize that nothing is ever personal. Like, I feel like throughout my life I took everything personal. Like, why do these people hate me? Like, why? And I'm like, no. They hate that I'm a ball of sunshine because they go home to toxicness. And I just want her to know that. And it sucks that you have to teach your kids that at a young age, but I would rather her be kind and help someone who needs the help than shun them off because they're a bully, because they're not loved properly or something. So
as she grows up, you'll be able to tell her the discernment of like, all right, you can be nice to them from very far away.
100%.
And you don't have to be too nice, all right?
Oh, no, she knows when to stick it to the man.
It's like, but like, you definitely need that empathy. Because empathy is like a compass. So it's like, you gotta just really instill that in
the
your
kids.
Practice, are you dealing with like mostly adults or teenagers or adults?
So legally I can't say I can't say I can't. The different things that I do, like trauma touch therapy, I cannot do under 18, right? So primarily adults, yes. CranioSacral Therapy, I am allowed to see children. So obviously I wouldn't be seeing them from like a somatic, emotional, trauma processing space. But a pure nervous system regulation and helping them, totally.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so and I have actually had a few children for just that, right? But from a coaching perspective, I can coach people as long as they have parental sign-off, right? So that they willingly want to be there, and then also their parents are signing off that this is the process we're doing. So I just likely wouldn't step into the trauma reprocessing stage with anyone under 18, just because I am not a licensed therapist.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's incredible the things you do. And so how can people find you in case they feel like you're calling to them?
Yeah. Well, my website is Tree Embodied Wellness. You can find
Which is
me.
Beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Instagram and Facebook, Tree Embodied Wellness. You'll find me there. I don't love doing it.
Yeah.
I'm in the older generation that despises it.
That honestly has helped me, though. Like, the older generations and the people that are just like, well, it's helped me.
Yeah, helps you give you business.
It gives me business, but then, like, my anxiety is like, oh my god, I gotta post and do all this stuff for these people, social media managing. This year, I took, like, a huge step back.
Did you?
2025, I've loaded my plate way too much, and it burned me out. Like, I was disassociating really bad. Like, even at home, I was just, like, constantly in the phone, screen to my face. And every single year, I start off with a social media detox. So I delete all of the stuff off my phone.
I've been missing you.
Yeah. I did, I was on a car ride home from Florida this week, and I did do a little bit of scrolling, and I did feel the FOMO. I was like, I feel like I am, like, missing out on, like, real life stuff. Like, I actually texted a close friend of mine because she went through something horrific that she had shared on social media, and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry you're going through this. So, like, I did feel a bit of disconnect in that part, but then, like, the clarity set over, and I was like, but I needed this. Like, I can't be, like, I have been so present in my life. Like, I read a book for the first time, like, 2 hours straight, and got so many pages in, and I was like, I haven't done this in years. Like, this is amazing. So I'm gonna continue it into February. I love that it is such an integrative thing that we feel like we're not missing out on our friends' lives because they share so much on social media, but it was really, like, taking a lot for me. I hosted an event in March of last year. It was a vendor event, and then I did another one in October, and I helped multiple businesses do their grand opening. I had social media, I had a couple accounts, I was helping someone out here, and it was just too much. And I'm a very, like, I'm OCD in a way that I have to make sure that I'm always doing something. So if there's, like, an idle time in the business that is, like, I feel like I'm not doing something, then anxiety sets in, and I'm like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not playing my part. So I was like, I just think that I overloaded myself too much, that this is just the constant state of feeling that I have regarding these things. So I'm just going to take a step back.
Beautiful.
In 2026 is just going to be focusing on the cleaning business, and, like, my daughter wants to join 900,000 clubs, so I'm like, soccer and freaking
my
plays.
son's 5, and we're already we're deep in soccer.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I got it.
So I'm just, like, clearing all of my, like, I did it. You know, I can say I've hosted events. I can say I was a social media manager for people. Like, I did it. And I think that there was, for me, it was the fulfillment thing. And my husband would say to me, he'd be like, what, like, when is enough going to be enough for you? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I really don't. But, like, I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner for 3 years. I've operated a business that has been successful for 3 whole years. That's that's a big thing, you know? And I've helped other businesses get their, you know, foot off the ground and show them that the algorithms of social media. I've met awesome people that have helped, you know, me grow. This podcast is growing. Like, I have so much to be grateful for, that being in the midst of it and overloading my plate to a point of disassociating, I wasn't even, like, patting myself on the back for any of this stuff. I was just like, it's just another thing, whatever. And now I'm like, no, this is badass. Like, this is great.
This is crazy. I need to give myself a standing ovation.
I love that.
Golf class?
The
mic actually picked it up a little bit.
So that's what we're doing for 2026. We're appreciating all that we've come through, our healing journey, and being badass women.
I love it. Love it.
You too.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're in it.
It's a big deal. I never set out to be an entrepreneur. That wasn't in the dream, right? But I actually just love to help people, and so the healing is really important, and that's why I do what I do. And the business stuff I'm figuring out, you know.
You'll always be figuring that out. Most days I'm like, babe, can you read this? Because I don't know if I read it right. And he's like, you literally created an LLC for us. How do you not know? And I'm like, that was a different time.
Things change.
Yep.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's been so fun.
Awesome.
Yes, you're more than welcome. Come anytime, and please keep coaching us.
Yeah.
So, help us.
We can do a session
I was
on
going to say,
coaching.
we should have her on again and do one of the, what's it called?
The CranioSacral.
Yes.
Ooh, we could do it.
It's pretty, it'll be you just laying there. But
but
it's
no.
cool.
I'm sure that, like, then we can comment on what we felt. Like,
oh.
Have you done Reiki?
Yes. I'm also Reiki certified. Level 2, but I'm not a master yet. But
cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
I do what's called a craniosacral Reiki infusion, which I don't know if that's marketed or coined by anybody else, but I just infuse the two together if somebody wants that. So,
love that.
Yeah, we clear the chakras.
When I had my craniosacral done, I told her, because, you know, she was doing this soft touch to kind of, like, release these points in the fascia or whatever.
Fascia. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I was like, I feel like there's something, like, there. And she's like, that is so interesting that you say that. She's like, because I could feel that. And, like, so it is very energetic, too.
It's super energetic.
Yeah, I actually am, like, pretty interested in that. I would
love to have
my
you.
My hips are so locked.
Yes.
And I was actually in physical therapy for a little bit for it. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I am a pretty active person. Like, I have 900 steps that I walk up and down every day from my apartment. Like, I know they're steep steps. Like, I know I'm putting in the work. So I'm like, so it's not like I'm lazy, not doing anything. I think it's trauma stored from my horrific childbirth, from before that, from sexual partners that I should have not let me have any ounce of me, type of thing. So I definitely am going to reach out to you.
I would love to have you and come do a session on me, because this has been great. So
awesome. Yay!
I'll film it if you want.
No, we put it on here. Get it out there. That's literally what what we love to do.
Session.
She
traveling podcast
does amazing intros. I love doing videos of businesses. Yeah. So we'll do something. Get it going. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Please find Laural at all her things.
Shade Tree Embodied Wellness.
Yes. And please, if you like this, share it to someone who might benefit. Give it a like. Do a subscribe. Do a 5-star if you are on the listening side of things. And please have a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And heal.
Bye.
Bye.